Seahawks and Price for Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. We're a presentation of Bet365, coming to you from the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio here at the historic Wall Center. Visit shoptoyota.ca or visit your local Pacific Toyota dealer today. I'm Matt Seahawks. He's Blake Price. Mike Rogerson and all his Junos hitting switches and conducting things in the producer's booth.
Much smoother today. We've remembered to turn our microphones on.
Well, one of us remembered.
You remembered how to speak. It was great.
Well, I only forgot how to speak because I heard myself echoing out of your machine yesterday. And we did put ourselves on E's and O. O's. More on O's later in the program.
Woes.
O's and woes.
Yes.
As in triple O's at the net this year. Wow. Newsy day for the Vancouver Canucks.
Canucks versus Sharks, just to be clear.
There is a game tonight.
We do the menu later on, but I'll give you a little pre-menu here. This is the happy hour menu. Canucks versus Sharks is 9th on the list of to-dos.
About that, yeah.
Yeah.
Try the wings, though. They're on special happy hour.
Smaller portions.
Yeah. Start with the Yellow Dog poll question, brought to you by Yellow Dog Brewing, Neighborhood Brewing, Foolish Winery. Does Thatcher Demko play another game for the Canucks? You can vote yes, you can vote no, you can vote don't know. Do so at the Seahawks and Price X and YouTube channels. We'll get into the particulars on Demko in a second, but first let's hear from the head coach, Adam Foote, addressing the big news on the Canucks goalie today.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, to watch him go through what he's gone through. He's fought through it for a while now. I think it's a good thing. His demeanor when I had a long conversation with him, he knows it's the right thing for him to do, to give us his best and clean up, where it's not affecting. Like when you watch his games this year, the first 10, he was where he is, the type of goalie he is. And then you can tell it just gradually got to him where, it jumps from compensation to a sore back to maybe a pulled groin you're fighting through, and then it moves around. I think I clean up, and I'm not going to get into the specifics of because I don't know, the medical terms, but the cleanup in that area will take him out of that discomfort. And I think we'll put him back in a place where he can play more than, the games he's been playing the last couple of years, as far as giving us more and the next years to come.
Yeah, and spot on, Coach Foote. He was excellent in October. We talked about it at Halloween. One of the best goalies in the National Hockey League through the first month of the season. He started 7 games. He won 4 of them. The goals against was .218. The save percentage was a sparkling .926. And then it all started to go downhill from there.
We even had Olympics still on the menu for him.
Yeah.
Like, if he continued that pace, would he force them into a tough decision?
Played only 3 games in November after leaving that start on Remembrance Day against the Winnipeg Jets, and so the numbers were quite fugly there because there were a couple of 4 goals against efforts against Nashville and Minnesota, and then 3 goals in a period against the Jets. Actually, it was pretty good in December. 7 games, .260 goals against, .912 save percentage, won 3 of 7 starts. And then, alas, here came January, and again, 3 more starts, .417 goals against, .811 save percentage, lasted just the 1 period at Tirana on January 10th. And so the Canucks capitulate, or Thatcher Demko capitulates to his body, and the Canucks capitulate to another season where one of their most important players is mostly unavailable. I voted yes. I think he's going to play another game for the Vancouver Canucks, and that's because, well, his contract extension kicks in July 1st and makes him untradeable. He's got a no-move clause, and, of course, no acquiring team is going to want to get on the hook for 3 years at $8.5 million without seeing him healthy and playing NHL games again. So, and for a rebuilding team, he may be the antidotes to sinking you down the standings. We shall see, but I can understand all votes here. We haven't heard from Thatcher yet, and we'll see how, if he's doom and gloom, if he's optimistic about well, first of all, we'll see if he even talks. He hates talking.
He's not talking
before the end of season press. End of
training
season.
Camp, next time we hear from him.
You don't think he'll speak at the end of the year media availability?
If I had to guess, I would say no.
Okay. But yeah, as many around the Canucks have now wondered, like, okay, where is Thatcher Demko's career going from here? What says you?
Literally, as the question is written, I would say yes. But to me, the spirit of the question is...
You're going to go meaningful game here?
Yeah, and just meaningful games. If you ask me the question, do you think Thatcher Demko will play 40 more games for the Vancouver Canucks? I think I'd say no. In 40 games, it's just one season as a starter or 2 seasons as a backup. I think the answer for that question is no. That's a little bit cumbersome to ask you in a poll, so we went with does he play another game?
Yeah.
But that's the delineation for me is I don't think he's going to be able to play meaningful games for the duration of this contract.
And that contract extension they signed him to on July 1st just looks catastrophic now. There is no defending that under any measure. There was barely a defense for that contract extension on July 1st when they announced it. I agree wholeheartedly with J-Pad, who said to us last week or the week before, he thinks that was signed in part because of public perception and optics. That they recognized they were going to be running back the same team, with or without Besser, and it happened to be with Besser. And they wanted to be able to have a good news day. And so in their world, getting Thatcher Demko on a reasonably short term was a win when the rest of us looked at it and went, he can't stay healthy. No term would be a win here.
I mean, 32 teams in the league. I think 3 of them signed that deal.
The bad ones.
Yeah.
The ones for whom hope is a strategy. And that is too often the case with the Vancouver Canucks. Hope is not a strategy. Too often this organization has conducted itself hoping things go well. I had a GM tell me when I was a young reporter in the business, my job is to hope for the best, but plan for the worst.
And planning for the worst meant you start the season with Thatcher Demko and you see how it goes.
And if it costs you extra dollars on the cap because he is back healthy and having a Vezina Trophy season, so be it.
But look at the
cap's going up every year henceforth.
Look at the goalie deals signed. There's nothing too grotesque being signed by goalies right now. Like what was the worst case scenario that was going to become? 10 million a season?
And the worst part is they gave him a full no move for the 3 years. It's just criminal.
But even if it was a modified 15, Matt, who's taking on Thatcher?
Well,
Demko?
of course, fair enough.
He's untradeable.
Just atrocious managing from Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin.
You had time. You should have used it.
Exactly. I mean, dumb and dumber here with this management group. I don't care that one of them's in the Hall of Fame. His best days are clearly behind him.
And it doesn't even matter that the cap space for next season, folks, but you're going to start to wish you had that $8.5 million of space 2 years from now and 3 years from now. Like, that's going to come in very handy.
I mean, LTIR allows them to take on bad money if they're actually going to show themselves to be wise enough, creative enough to weaponize cap space and understand the exercise here of the rebuild.
It's right there for them now. I mean, they can go right to the cap and get all this LTIR space. If they could take on, presuming it's expiring this year or next, they could take on a pretty huge contract here.
Yep. And hopefully get handsomely rewarded for doing so.
Yes.
But, of course, that will require the owner having to buck up And there are signs that the owner is already preparing for less revenue through the rebuild. More on that later in the program. We're going to have Kevin Woodley on the show. We're going to ask him about all this when Kevin gets done at the rink there at Rogers Arena. Like mentioned, Sharks versus Canucks, and Kevin has a lot of responsibilities in goal media, NHL. So we'll see what Kevin has to say about this. Of course, it was Woodley who revealed the popliteus injury that Thatcher Demko was suffering through 2 seasons ago now, knocked him out of that out of the Nashville Predators series, and of course continued to be a problem into the early going of last year. Last year, another injury plague season for the Canucks. We're going to get into the last several years for Thatcher Demko, the numbers, the availability for the Vancouver Canucks a little later in the program as well. Just the last thing I'll say, partner, we're going to talk about Demko in our top story as well, but you do feel for him a little bit because it's just cruel to be an athlete of this order, to be a performer of this order, one of the best goaltenders in the world, and at 30 years old to have your body failing you as much as it has failed him.
Well, there's a very non-zero chance that he doesn't play another hockey game in his career.
Yeah.
Like, it's low. I think there's...
But it's higher than most 30-year-olds who are in the league and performing as he's able to perform.
Yeah.
Right. What's up with the Yellow Dog these days?
Well, they're getting their calendar going here. They're ready to start the festivals, Matt. It's time. They're going to start with the Kiwanis Ale Fest up in PG. If you're in PG, it's go time. Fun, high-energy beer event at the Two Rivers Gallery. I think we did Two Rivers Gallery for Canucks training camp up there one year. I think we did a media event there. Anyway, Neighborhood Brewing's there, Yellow Dog's there, Yellow Dog Spirits as well. Many more craft breweries from across BC excited to give you everything they've got. Grab your tickets now to the Kiwanis Ale Fest in PG.
Our top story brought to you by Pacific Blue Cross. Demko Dunzo. Canucks goaltender shut down for the season will undergo hip surgery as soon as next week. We were prepped for this by Darren Dreger yesterday, who mentioned to us, actually Patrick Johnson on Friday wrote that piece in the Province saying, anticipate hearing something on Thatcher Demko next week, meaning this week. And Darren Dreger mentioned to us yesterday that he thought we would absolutely hear about Demko's status and that it was not trending or looking well. So that's the announcement from the club this morning. After another injury-marred season for the former Vezina finalist, Demko left that January 10th game versus Toronto after one period. Second straight year he has failed to complete a start against the Leafs, and second time this season he was unable to finish a game he started with that Remembrance Day game v. Winnipeg we referenced. 30-year-olds will finish this year 8-10 with one shutout, a .290 goals against average, an .895 save percentage. He saved 2 goals above expected by Money Puck, and that ranked 33rd amongst NHL goalies.
In front of a defense that we now know
is miserable.
Is not very good.
No. Well, defensive system that is miserable.
Right.
I think there's some talent on the back end, and I think there's some defensively minded forwards as well. It had been their team strength for the most part through the last 2 seasons, playing that 5-man defensive unit under Rick Tocchet's system, but Foote came in, changed all that, and this club sewered.
What do Demko's numbers look like if he's healthy and playing with a capable defense and / defense system? I mean, I think he's near the top of the league.
Well, yeah, because we saw him playing under horrid defensive systems.
I still prefer
with Travis Green and Bruce Boudreau, or at least horrid defensive play. Shouldn't say systems, we'll say play. And he was there saving bacon many a night, right? He was the guy keeping them in games. Again, that was another hope strategy. Oh, let's play loose defensively and hope Demko is there to keep us in games. That 3-year, $8.5 million extension kicks in July 1st. It has a full no-move clause through its duration. It is structured a little differently. There is no signing bonus payment this summer. Instead, it's a $10.5 million base salary. Well, no, but that's the thing too, Blake, because
that takes down the financial commitment later.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, if you're looking, say, going, okay, would he be tradable in year 2? Would he be tradable in year 3? Would he be tradable later in year 1? If you have paid him a huge chunk of the total money owing, then that does make him a little more attractive to budget-conscious teams who, the GM can argue to the owner, okay, well, it's an $8.5 million cap hit, but we're only paying him this much. So that he's getting 10.5, $2 million more than the average value in year 1 is good, but, if there had been a big signing bonus there, that would have made him more tradable. Alas, no.
No, not tradable.
The signing bonuses kick in year 2 and in year 3 of that pack.
Yeah, the best case scenario for the Canucks, for Canucks fans right now, is that this surgery goes off without a hitch, and it is a miracle cure for him and provides him with comfort and stability and longevity. But that just seems like, what's that H word you were talking about?
It's a 4-letter word.
Hope. Yeah.
Not just a city in British Columbia.
That's what
a managerial strategy of Francesco Aquilini, Jim Rutherford, Patrick Alvey.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll say here, partner, and we used to talk about this a lot. You've brought it up a couple of times this season, although in the inverse way. This was once the market that was the quote-unquote goalie graveyard, according to Brian Burke, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then Dave Notice swings that fantastic Roberto Luongo for Todd Bertuzzi trade. You bring in one of the NHL's all-time best goaltenders. He turns into the Vancouver Canucks all-time best goaltender. You backstop him with a first-round pick whose careers, sadly and similarly, cut short by injuries in Corey Schneider. But he is tremendous to the point where he's outperforming Luongo that one season and earning more and more starts. And we're sitting here talking goaltender controversy. You trade him for Bo Horvat, another good trade for the Vancouver Canucks. You bring in a Swedish free agent, Eddie Lack, who actually does really well that Torts year.
As you wait for Jacob Markstrom.
Well, they not yet. They bring in Lack. He backs up Roberto, you remember. Eddie starts playing really, really well, especially coming out of the Sochi Olympics, that he gets the Stadium Series start at BC Place, which totally pisses off Luongo. You think, oh no, here goes the end of Canucks goaltending. You make another good trade and get another top-flight goaltender in here. Jacob Markstrom was very good as a Vancouver Canuck. Then he leaves and Ryan Miller is here, a most capable one-time NHL All-Star and U.S. Olympic starter who does pretty darn well in front of a really shitty team, it must be said. And so, as all of that is happening, Blake and I doing our show used to say, man, for the old goalie graveyard, this is a pretty fertile garden. Every time they have to get rid of a goaltender, here comes another one who does good work.
Yeah, and so now this long streak post Snow, Potvin, Essens, Ald, and Cloutier, this nice streak since those days, is at risk of coming to an end. And it sort of feels like they're into Potvin, Essens, Cloutier territory now, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, is that what we can expect going forward here from this team?
Should mention Miller came in as Markstrom was
still
rising up.
yes.
And then, of course, and one of the wisest moves he made, and at the urging of scouts, we're told, Jim Benning pops on Thatcher Demko in the second round of his first draft, 2014. And here comes another all-star goaltender.
And ultimately shows his readiness maybe earlier than expected, and he's thrown in during the pandemic.
In the bubble playoff series, and shows himself to be spectacular.
Yeah.
I mean, they forced Game 7 with Vegas because Thatcher Demko stands on his head. So now you got to wonder where the goaltending goes from here, right? Demko going to be unavailable. We'll see about next year. Lankinen hasn't lived up to the contract extension signed last year.
Well, he's not been as good as he was before the extension, but he is still their best goalie.
Well, yeah, but he's not a top 15 starter in the NHL.
Well, no, he's not. So, it wasn't signed with that intention.
No, but he's below average. So, and look, you have hopes for Nikita Tolopilo, but we'll see. In a moment, we're going to get more into Demko's career, and as mentioned, we'll have Kevin Woodley on the show here.
Let's go through quickly, though.
Yeah.
If they don't re-sign Lankinen, and Shilovs was the backup here this year, and you're going Shilovs Tolopilo now the rest of the way.
Yeah.
That doesn't sound very healthy for the rest of the team to be around.
No, but on the surface for us, it may sound like AHL goaltending, but of course, Artie has turned himself into an NHL goaler
as a 1B.
Well,
when you're being handed the keys to the car,
isn't he a co-star?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, okay. But of course, you don't care about this year, anyways, Blake.
No, I know, but
the more losses,
you don't want to lose every game 7-1. You don't.
No, of course not. But yeah, 23 games for Shilovs in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, what's the save percentage now?
894.
Yeah.
Yep. No, fair enough. Pacific Blue Cross wants to do you a solid. We know you're down in the dumps about this Canucks season and this latest news on Demko, but
you're not seeing wins here, folks.
You may see them on the road because that's where they play better.
So why don't you head out on the ultimate Canucks road trip, courtesy of Pacific Blue Cross, and then you're going to get to see some wins potentially.
Yeah.
And you'll get to see some sun, too. Two rare things during the hockey season. Sun and a possible victory, a chance at victory. So head down to L.A. with Pacific Blue Cross Travel Insurance for your chance to see the Canucks take on the Kings, complete with flights, hotel, lower bowl tickets, and more. No purchase necessary. Contest ends February 28th, 2026. Enter now at pacificbluecross.ca/Canucks.
Blake and I can attest, have attended many games. That's a fun building.
Oh, yeah.
First of all, it's a spectacular looking building.
It's huge.
On the inside, it's unbelievable.
Feels like a football stadium.
It does. United Center and Crypto almost feel like football stadiums. They're so large.
The distance
like
from
hangars.
you to the people on the other
Bell
side
Center
is
too.
forever.
Oh, yeah. No, exactly. Like, you want to talk wide concourses. Dear God.
You play another game in the concourse.
Time now for Crave the Stats, brought to you by Uber Eats. And today we take a closer look at Demko's last 4 injury-riddled seasons with the Vancouver Canucks. A reminder, this is the longest-standing player in the organization. Besser beat him to the NHL, but Demko was drafted a year earlier in 2014, as mentioned, with the 3rd pick ever in the Jim Benning era.
Look at the starts. He's only been there for you, Canucks fan. And again, I'm not trying to blame
those are
him
games
for
or
his body.
starts.
First,
well,
those are games.
Yeah, most will be starts, of course.
But 51 in 23-24, that's what you need out of him.
That's the high water mark.
But that's the high water mark.
And Blake, look at that one number sticking out on the right-hand column. Playoffs.
1 game.
1.
And also look at the record. So he was great in 23-24 during the regular season. There's no doubt about that. No one's taking that away. 9-18, 35 win. Fabulous.
5 shutouts.
Folks, in the other 3 seasons combined, he's a 500 goalie. 14-14-4 and 22-23, and you can see in the last 2 years, mirror image seasons kind of 10-8, 8-10.
18-18-4 in the last 2.
So he's a 500 goalie in the last 4 years outside of the one great
with
year.
A 290 GAA too.
Yeah.
It's matchy there.
And a lot of that, he's probably playing through stuff. There's no doubt about it.
And he's playing in front of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or behind stuff.
But in terms of like how do they go forward, I mean, they haven't been getting the best of Thatcher Demko for the balance of the last 4 years anyhow. So I Based on that, like, you can't let the he's had 2 fabulous years where he's been a starter and a stalwart. Mm-hmm. The rest of the time as a Vancouver Canuck, he's been injured and he's not been there for you. Availability, best ability, as you always say, Matt, has not been there. And so, yeah, it's tough because you know where the potential is with Thatcher Demko. Skill-wise, he's got everything you need. But his inability to be available and to execute because he's playing at 50% or whatever has cost the Canucks. 500 team in 3 of the 4 years that he's played. I mean, Matt, they can probably find a goalie that can give them 500 goaltending.
Well, and that's the other thing here, Blake. If he's not ready to go in September, or if you have any question about him in September, then it's one of 2 things. Either Nikita Tolopilo shows himself to be ready to make those starts and be the backup to Lankinen, or I think you're on the market for a veteran NHL backup just to, bridge the gap, stem the bleeding, tourniquet, basically.
This procedure that he's having next week has to go according to plan and to the liking of the Vancouver Canucks. Because the other thing you can do, and it's, I'm sure they would never admit to thinking this right now, but if the surgery's, they had it and it's there. And
he's had it before, right?
He's had multiple surgeries.
Isn't it the thing? The labrum, you do the one, you're going to have to do the other.
I think he's had both hips already.
Oh wow, we'll ask Kevin.
We'll go on these.
We'll ask Kevin.
But my point is if this does not go according to the Canucks' strict standards here of where he needs to be, you don't have to play the player.
No.
And that's the way you can also open up a no trade clause. But again, what's the value? I mean, like what are you doing with that contract?
Yep.
It would be 50% retention at best.
Game night, so buy one, get one. BOGO at Uber Eats.
Yes, always the game day deals. Go check it out. If you get 12 chicken McNuggets for the price of 6, aren't you jumping all over that? So let Uber Eats help you. It's been a tough season. They make it easier, assisting every fan's hockey experience all season long.
Moving on to Evander Kane and David Pagnotta, the 4th period, DFO Insider, Wednesdays here on the Nation Network with Irf Ghaffar. We'll have David on the program later this week. Vancouver is willing to retain part of Evander Kane's salary. They want a prospect and or draft pick in return. Now, David mentioned some of this to us last week. He says some teams in the East have engaged. And then there's Rick Dhaliwal, who reported last night that Evander Kane's agent has permission to talk to teams and facilitate a trade. More on this from Dennis Bernstein, 4th period. If you can bring that back up for a sec, Mike. He covers the Kings and says the LA Kings have inquired. Earlier this week, it was Kevin Weeks saying, or late last week, Colorado and Dallas were interested in Evander Kane. Dhaliwal says he wants out yesterday. So the homecoming for Evander Kane, who, of course, grew up here, was a great Vancouver Giant, has not gone as planned. And look, if you're a player of his age who has been through so much physically, only has so many miles left, I can completely understand wanting to go to a place where you can play in the Stanley Cup playoffs again. And, of course, many believe his game translates better to the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that's why you're seeing some of the interest. Now, the agent is Florida-based Dan Milstein, who's quite a character and who has quite a history with Vancouver Canucks players, including sweet-talking Andrei Kuzmenko to waive his trade protection, if you'll remember, in that deal with Calgary for Elias Lindholm. Represented Big Nikita, Zadorov, and current players like Evander Kane and Max Sassone. Now, when you engage the agent to facilitate a trade, that is usually because management's efforts to trade the player have proved unsuccessful. Now, in this case, I do wonder whether there's another channel here and whether it's up to Milstein to go out there and sort of soften Evander's edges for those who might be unsure of the personality, who's, needless to say, had his travails.
A better PR campaign coming from his agents.
Oh, can you not see Milstein laying on the PR campaign? I mean, the sweet talking and the Russian accent.
Well, the other thing you get to do as the agent is lambaste the usage of the player.
That's right.
Right, you get to say, "Are you kidding me?" The guy, look at him
Even though
tonight.
he was like amongst the most used 5-on-5 forwards early in the season.
He was hard to dislodge from the top six. He's fourth line tonight, incidentally.
Yeah. Now, as we've also mentioned, there is a residual matter from Edmonton that some teams are looking at. A number are aware of that around the league. But here's the other thing. The Canucks may have some urgency on this file. And not only because Evander Kane was busy slamming the gate 3 times Sunday, this after Adam Foote vowed to change the culture of veteran frustration manifesting in games. Did you catch that? We didn't mention that.
Slams per 60 was a...
Big slams per 60. Gate slams. He prefers the gate, not the stick. Others, it's the stick. But Frank Saravelli said, and he is absolutely right, I've seen Frank, I've heard Frank say this, I've seen him write it, that the Canucks may well be amongst the teams who want to move players by the February 4th Olympic roster freeze. And that's because Evander Kane is in line to collect something in the order of 600,000 Canadian dollars to not play during the Olympic break. And Frank cites this as budget reasons. Is that not the owner preparing for lower revenues during a rebuild? This is a good way to shed $600,000. Trade him before the Olympic break as opposed to after the Olympic break. And it's funny because we talked about this yesterday. Some clubs are eager to bring in players before that February 4th roster freeze.
You get a week training camp.
Because on February 17th, you can centralize your team. And you know how those coaches love practices. And so this is a rare ability in season, in a compressed schedule, to get a number of practices and get that new guy not only familiar from a life standpoint of being able to move here and get his shit in order,
but get
that system and get that chemistry down with teammates. Other teams, more budget-conscious teams or cap-tight teams, don't really want to go to February 4th because they don't want to pay the player for not playing for 3 weeks. And, of course, he counts on the cap, so why not just accrue the cap space through the break? There are no trades allowed from February 4th to the 22nd. And so what that means is there's just 12 days from the end of the Olympic roster freeze to the March 6th trade deadline. So some interesting dynamics at play there, but I could absolutely see the Canucks and Aquilini, knowing they're going into a rebuild here, wanting to get money off the books by next week in this February 4th roster freeze deadline.
So we've gone from an owner that would happily spend to the cap to now going, ooh, gosh, I could save a few hundred K.
No, but I think it's just fiscal good management. Like, I mean, you don't take a lesser return, or at least you would hope you don't take a lesser return just to get this.
My point is, Matt, you're in the wrong business if that's what you're doing.
Well, there are a lot of fissures now showing that, look, and Thomas Grant's had a great line about this. They're a mom and pop operation. And this is no longer a mom and pop.
Sports franchise owners cannot be counting the pennies.
Yeah. And to their infinite credit, the Aquilinis have, with the one exception during the COVID year where they turned off the taps and lost all those free agents, have spent above and beyond the cap. Hell, Lawrence Gilman mentioned it 2 weeks ago when we had him on. The recommendation that he and Gillis made with regards to his Pettinger and another veteran guy. We want to bury these guys in the minors. We'll have to pay their full salary. But I think it was Yannick Hansen and somebody else had earned their way on the team, and we want to keep those guys. And the Aquilini signed off on that, and they signed off on a lot of other decisions that came at their financial cost to improve the Canucks.
Incidentally, one crossover angle for both of these top 2 stories for today. Nobody had told Evander Kane, or maybe the rest of the team, Matt, that Thatcher Demko was done for the year.
Oh, really?
Media asked him for his reaction to Demko being done. He's like, I didn't know. Like,
oh, well.
Isn't that a communication weird.
That's a little weird.
You tell the team first?
Kane skating on the 4th line tonight with Atu Ratu and Nils Höglander. An interesting showcase from Adam Foote. And everyone talking about, look, if you get a 4th back, what you paid for him, think you're happy. It is a seller's market, though. Blake Carson Soucy recoups the third-round pick that the Rangers gave to the Canucks last year at the deadline to get his services by sending him to the Islanders. Only the fourth ever trade between the Islanders and Rangers, two New York City rivals, but it suggests it's a seller's market.
He's a prototypical deadline kind of guy, a big defender. That's generally what you want at the deadline. But so is Evander Kane.
Soucy is the third pair penalty killer. And you were talking about Bluger yesterday in his market. He's a fourth-line penalty killer. I think that's good news for Teddy Bluger's value.
Yep.
Seeing that Soucy return.
Well, if
Kane could be a special circumstance that you have to put over the side.
But again, prototypical deadline deals are special teams guys,
depth guys,
depth defenders, and physical guys, right? Yeah. Because you anticipate the physicality ramping up. So in that regard, I think Evander Kane is sellable.
He is. Well, look, I don't dispute these reports. Dallas, Colorado, yes, as a depth forward on very good teams. LA, they need everything basically up front to LA. So, yeah. And as Pinota says, some teams out east as well. We'll see. Sharks face the Canucks tonight at Rogers Arena. It's the sixth game of an 8-game homestand. And the return to Vancouver for our old friend Kiefer Sherwood, who was moved for 2 second-round picks and a minor leaguer last week. He participated in his first morning skate with the San Jose Sharks today. He is unlikely to play. Vancouver's Macklin Celebrini in town before he heads to the Olympics with Canada. It's 2 goals, 7 points, and 5 career games for Celebrini against the Canucks. He's 19 years old and an MVP candidate. The value of first overall draft picks. Mm-hmm. And then there was some injury updates from head coach Adam Foote. Zeev Buium has a broken cheekbone. Tough kid. Came back Sunday to finish that game after taking the puck to the face, but as Darren Dreger prompted us yesterday, be out a minimum 7 to 10 days. So he may not make it back before the Olympic break and, frankly, take all the time you need.
Mm-hmm.
And then poor Marco Rossi. We hardly know you, Marco. He suffered a setback with his injury. Foote was saying he was hoping to have him back after the Olympics. If you're unaware, the Vancouver Canucks have the 2 games next week before the Olympics in Utah and in Vegas. Then, of course, are off like the rest of the National Hockey League and then return to play with a home game February 25th against the Winnipeg Jets. That could be the Toilet Bowl. We'll see what the Jets do. I still think
the Jets will wake up to some degree. Like, the Jets can play 500 hockey.
Go on a heater, finish 15th, mushy middle.
At this point, a heater is like going 4-6 in your last 10. Like, just do something like that. That would separate them.
Yeah. The gavel has dropped from the NHL's Department of Player Safety to Penguins winger Brian Rust, who is suspended 3 games for that elbow on Brock Besser in the late stages Sunday here at Rogers Arena. Penguins head coach Dan Muse, rookie NHL head coach, not a vested or old guy, said 3 games is a lot. I don't agree with it. The organization doesn't agree with it. Brian Rust works his ass off. Memo to Coach Muse. His work ethic has no fucking bearing on his suspension. Coach. Plays the game the right way. One thing, he's not a dirty player. League is a tough job, but in terms of the play, there's a lot of things happening there. Yeah, sure. It's an end of game, desperate goal mouth scramble, but you still can't rabbit elbow somebody to the back of the head, with the head being the principal point of contact and the elbow way up in a dangerous position. The end, Coach.
The problem I think most people have with it is the consistency of these decisions. As somebody pointed out, Jacob Trouba has never had a 3-game suspension. Jacob Trouba...
It's a big suspension, I'll give him that.
...has lived his life making plays like that. He's never had a 3-game suspension. And Brian Rust, who does not play like that, gets this.
And he works his ass off, Blake.
He does work his ass off.
Him and all the other veteran Penguins have been so good this year.
I'll be completely honest, Matt.
Yeah.
In real time, I thought nothing of it.
I honestly did.
It looked like a dirty play at the end of a game that happens in 77% of the games. Like it just
Well,
got
as
thrown on
Coach
the pile.
Muse says, there's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed him skating straight down and hitting Besser, but I didn't recognize it until afterwards and seeing the replay.
Like, watch the front of the net on any given night and watch the cross checks to
There's
the
a
neck, to the back, all that sort of stuff. Like,
but-
none of that gets punished.
Well, but here it should be.
But it doesn't. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
It's just
but
consistency.
it should. I'm not disagreeing with you on consistency.
I think the fact
But what
that
I'm
this
saying
happened
is
at the end of
you're
the game.
trying to get concussions and headshots out of the game. How do you do it? Well, you've got to police the final seconds the same way you police the intervening 59 minutes and change.
That's my point. Is I think because this is the final seconds and it's
that's-
your last bit of attention on that.
That's what he's upset about.
You're not moving on. I think that's why it's punished.
Okay. Let's get to our menu today. It's brought to you by our friends at Greta, which is a fantastic spot to pregame or postgame because you are mere steps from the arena or the stadium. It is also a fabulous spot to book your next group outing. This could be an office party, a family reunion, a team party, whatever the case may be. Check out Greta. They got a private area in the back, atop a riser. You're surrounded by bitchin' arcade games, television screens galore so you can watch the game. The food is sensational, very unpretentious. The tacos, absolutely delicious. Try the smash burger as well. To book your next event or for more information, go to gretabar.com. Greta 50 West Cordova. Let the games begin. As mentioned, we're going to have Kevin Woodley of InGoal Media coming up here, goaltending insider, and has been the lead reporter on all things Thatcher Demko and his injury travails in this market for a number of years. So looking forward to catching back up with Kevin, but also want to ask Kevin about Tolopilo, about Ian Clark, one-time director of goaltending for the Vancouver Canucks. Now just a scout. Everybody thought, okay, he's out at the end of the year. Does this Demko injury change the equation there? We know they've had a good working relationship, so we'll ask Kevin all the relevant questions on Demko and beyond. And then later in the program, Cam Robinson is going to join us, and we'll talk Demko with him, but we'll also talk progress reports on Victor Mancini and Atu Ratu. Ratu, as mentioned, going to play with Kane today. Has been healthy scratched here of late. Is it fair to say disappointing season for Ratu?
Yeah, I would have expected more.
Yeah, a little more.
He's plateaued at best, and
Right.
I think
I know a lot of
progression
Canucks fans at the beginning of the year were writing him in as a third-line center, thinking he was already ahead of Teddy Bluger and everything was going to go tickety-boo because he had that
I'm not crazy about his deployment though either.
that very good he had that very good run towards the end of last year where he was contributing points on top of being in a split. I mean, aces face-off guy. He's one of the, has there been a better face-off guy since Manny Malhotra in this market?
Like
JT was pretty good.
There is no reason David Camp should play another game for the Vancouver
absolutely
Canucks.
not. Absolutely not. You should ship him out for a 7th-round draft pick or a hope bet prospect. Sticking with
Like
the theme
Atu Ratu
here.
should be playing
Absolutely.
every
single
night
game.
now.
Every single game. So we'll talk to Cam, status reports there. Ask him about the market for Tyler Myers because you remember the story we heard last week done by the province that opened the door just a crack to waiving his no-move clause. Of course, he would have control over his destination this season. Next year, it's a limited no-trade clause. He would have a lot less control. We asked him about Shane Wright in Seattle, who's available, young centerman, young right-shot centerman, one-time 4th overall pick. And Cam has completed his exercise in terms of polling those scouts for a draft ranking on elite prospects. So we'll get into that. He's also spent some time with Keaton Verhoff, the one-time Victoria Royal, now North Dakota defenseman, who is really coming from a points perspective in the NCAA, the presumptive 3rd overall pick right now after Gavin McKenna and Ivar Stenberg, the Swedish winger, in whatever order you want to put him. So a good, robust conversation with Cam. Later in the show, big news from the Vancouver Canadians, who are prepping for 2026 and the 75th anniversary of Nat Bailey Stadium. The stadium renovation is nearly complete there. There are all sorts of new bells and whistles around the ballpark, including just what looks like a gorgeous, unbelievable new seating area for you up the first base line.
And on a perch, so even better than the old first base line. You'll be up high and
the
getting
renderings
a good look.
of this. I did get a look at it in late October, but we've had a lot of time since, and they're busy at work there. So we'll talk about the Vancouver Canadians. We'll talk about the Vancouver Whitecaps, who, believe it or not, have played a game.
Sort of.
It's January 27th. They have a game in the books. They played MLS Cup December 4th. Was it the 4th or the 6th? It was the first. 6th. Yeah. It was the first week of December. They're playing for the championship. 6 weeks later, 7 weeks later, here we are opening preseason.
It's crazy.
Say life moves fast, but soccer moves faster. I mean, hardly time to breathe.
Yeah. And they had to deal with a world champion, I think, Alexander Usyk.
Oh, yeah. Heavyweight world champion. Here's the thing. When you got a guy like Thomas Muller on your club, global sporting figures want to stop by your training camp.
But he played in the game.
Oh, yeah, because he's Ukrainian?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So the Ukrainian side gave him minutes as a striker.
He is no doubt a striker.
That is a difficult guy to mark, and I would hesitate getting too physical with said player.
Guy can strike people in the face usually. So we'll get into that. A British Columbian poised for Olympic success. Lots happening here. So we'll get into that later in the program. And it's time now for our Bet365 bets of the day. I got a win yesterday. It was Zverev winning in the quarterfinals of the Aussie Open, continuing his dominance against left-handed players. Now, I feel a little bad because, as you know, Blake, I tend to like to go on underdogs, on plus value on the Bet365 menu. I don't take a lot of favorites because really you don't need us to find you favorites.
No. And incremental successes are not what we're about.
No, I'm not about that either. Macklin Celebrini home here in Vancouver. We mentioned the 7 points in 5 games in his career, but, I mean, the kid improves almost by the week. I think he's going to want to put on a good show. I think he's got a relatively lame opponent here, missing all these guys. I looked at a 2-point night for Celebrini.
Yeah, what's that?
It's only plus 110.
Ooh, wow.
Couldn't do that. Got to up the ante here. A 3-point night for Macklin Celebrini pays at plus 350.
I think Evander Kane senses opportunity. I know he's on the 4th line. He's probably on the 2nd power play unit still, though. And I think he finds a moment. An anytime goal from Evander Kane here.
He's been good of late. I'll give him that. Yep.
Plus 240 from Evander Kane tonight.
This segment, a presentation of Bet365. Whatever your bet, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app, get in on the game. Use code NATION when doing so. Must be 19 or older. Please play responsibly. Kevin Woodley coming up next. And Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center. We are going to be joined here in a moment by Kevin Woodley of InGoal Media, of course, covering the Vancouver Canucks for NHL.com. Presentation of Pizza.
Oh, my goodness. Pizza is doing God's work, really. You know me and my love of pizza. It's tremendous. And in the month of January, they are delivering big time. We're running low, though. It is January 27th, Matt.
Mm-hmm. So
you have to act fast here. Pizza is slicing the price for a 4-topping pizza. It's $13.99. That's 40% off the regular price. And yes, that's 4 toppings. Perfect for game night, which we have one right now. You're settling in for puck drop. You don't want to cook. There you go. Delivery or pickup. It's easy, fast, great value. Slice the price is on at Pizza. Order now at pizzapizza.ca. or on the Pizza app. Time's running out. Go get it.
Here's the city's foremost goaltending expert, at least on the media side of things, the one and only Mr. Kevin Woodley, who joins us from Rogers Arena. I know you were very busy, my friend, covering all the happenings with the Sharks and the Canucks this morning, so much appreciate the time. Thanks, Kevin.
It's been a busy one down here, so I know you guys are liking my rose gold, my daughter's earphones.
Love it.
Forgot my AirPods at home today, guys, so I had these in the bag, so it's a good look for me.
There you go. So we all received this Thatcher Demko news and hip surgery, and we take it as, oh, Thatcher Demko injured again. Oh, Thatcher Demko going for another surgery. But, of course, you know better. You have more insight, so you tell us. What's your level of concern at this point, Kev?
Well, I think it's got to be high. I talked to a couple of his teammates in the room today one-on-one about what he's been through, and interestingly enough, Tyler Myers said, he thinks that a lot of guys would have retired by now. I'm paraphrasing, but that's essentially what he said. If you knew what he went through, what he's been through already to continue to come back from the injuries, he thinks a lot of guys would be out of the league and retired and not gone through this. So I think it shows a determination in some ways, to not give up. I mean, he got paid, right? The contract, he could end it right now and the contract still goes. He can't retire and still get paid, but you know what I mean. The hope, and this is what the team and people around him seem optimistic as possible, is that they've finally uncovered the underlying issue that's led to a lot of recent problems. I didn't know what was going on. I'd obviously been asked a ton about it, and when I was asked, all I said was, quite often when you see repeated groin injuries or repeated lower body injuries, it ends up being the hips. Now, he's already had resurfacing on both hips in college. This is where we get into uncharted territory. At that stage in the college ranks or coming out of junior, quite often it's almost a boutique surgery. I actually was part of writing the original Sports Illustrated story on this as a stringer, sort of gathering quotes and anecdotes. It's over a decade ago when we first got into this. And we were finding even then goalies as young as 12 and 13 having it as a boutique surgery, having it to prevent future issues because they identified deformities in the hip socket that ultimately weren't going to allow them to keep playing, having it to widen their
preemptive
butterfly.
Tommy John surgery in baseball, right?
100%. Well said, Blake. But when you're into it for a second time, we're a little more uncharted territory. When you're into it at 30 instead of 20, what's the recovery process like? Now, the hope, again, talking to teammates and people around him, is that this is the reset. We figured out everything that's caused the issues over the past couple of years. It ultimately was the hip. Once it's fixed, it'll be fixed. If anyone's willing to do the work and grind through the rehab required to come back from this, it will be him. But is there certainty attached to that at this point? I think it would probably be naive to say that just take everything at face value and say, yeah, 100%, no problems.
I might have missed it there, Kev, but you said there's an indication that they've found what could be the matter with him this time around.
Well, I mean that ultimately it's the hip, right? That.
Oh, okay.
That the hip is what was ultimately it's not uncommon. I can remember, and we're going back here because it's Pascal Leclerc, so think of how long he's been out of the league. But he was in Columbus at the time, and he kept getting groin injuries, repeated groin injuries for a season. I literally reached out to someone in Columbus, and I'm like, is anybody checking the hip here? And he ended up having hip surgery that summer. It's not an uncommon thing for other symptoms from a hip injury to present themselves. So at the end of the day, given all this guy's been through, you just hope that this helps solve everything and reset whatever it is lower body wise that allows him to come back. And, you know, because when he's healthy, he's one of the best in the game. We've seen it, like one of the best in the game. And so hopefully he gets the chance to be that guy again, because I can't imagine what he's been through between the ears over the past couple of seasons having to manage this. It's got to be hard.
They wanted to make sure that this was understood to be separate from the popliteus injury. Do you buy that, or was the popliteus maybe a compensation for this problem as well?
If they say it's separate, then I would take them at their word for that. That's such a unique, rare injury. One that I don't think anybody has a handle on. So if that's what they're saying, then, like I said, groins and hips tend to go hand in hand. I don't have any information that says that those two things are related, to be honest, Blake.
How many times has he been cut open? The two hip resurfacing? Has he had knee surgeries? Remind me, was there a popliteus procedure, or he opted against that, didn't he?
Opted against it, but had a separate knee surgery that summer. Had a knee surgery. Remember the year of the groin injury?
Yeah.
That lost a bunch of times to the groin injury that year. There was a knee surgery that summer as well. That was reported and documented, not at the time, but once the season started. Mm-hmm. Here's where I'm not blaming anyone, but here's where I struggle a little bit. Came back from that knee surgery, went back on the ice back home, totally unsupervised. No team staff, nobody watching it. And my understanding is just went a million miles an hour to the point where everything else hurt. Led to the compensation in movement that created the groin injury. And again, I don't know what the rules are, but I don't know how you have an athlete that important come off a knee surgery and have unsupervised ice time in the summer and know how hard he works and how hard he grinds and not expect him to maybe go too hard too soon. And by the end of that session was having hip issues. I know that at the time. So there was pain there as far back as then. And again, it's just maybe the rules say you can't, but I remember hearing about that and being told that, and I'm like, how are you not monitoring this return? How are you not monitoring that as a return to play protocol?
Well, and Kevin, to wit, Jim Rutherford's on record as saying we've had to, tell him to back off and back him off some of the extra work that he does in between starts, in between formal on-ice sessions. So, yeah, he's a worker bee. It's a good thing, usually, but as Kevin says, you do want him supervised medically, particularly given everything he's gone through. Okay, so, Kev, what's your forecast? Do you think he plays again? Do you think he could ever get back to being a Vezina Trophy finalist at that level?
No way for me to know. Just no way for and Matt, I have sent texts around. I've asked a dozen goalie coaches, and in fairness, not all of them gotten back to me yet, because this has kind of happened quickly, even though I think we suspected it. For the last week, I've been saying I don't have any information, but there are signs pointing towards hip. I've yet to have anybody come back and say, oh yeah, so-and-so did this and then had the same surgery or had another hip procedure 10 years later and he was fine. So I just don't know. I will say this. If anybody's going to put in the work and do enough work to pull it off, I would bet on him, because we've seen that, to go back to that quote from Myers about a lot of guys would have just hung it up by now. There's a determination there that he's shown to continue playing, and he knows how good he can be, and he just wants the rest of the world. He wants to have a chance to show that again, and so I would not bet against him, but it's also hard to ignore just how many different injuries we're talking about now. Even if the last few have been related to the hip, even if the knee is unrelated and he's totally past that, it's just a lot of wear and tear. And the one thing, and I've said this for a few years now, and it's not a secret to him because I told it to him 3 years ago, man, get out of those skates. Get out of the one-piece skates. There are so many guys around the league that there's just no forgiveness. I know goalies love it. They have instant access to their edges. They change their sharpenings because they feel so connected to the ice. But the whole philosophy of that one-piece skate is there's no lost energy transfer, and all that energy has to go somewhere else. And a lot of people look at the reverse VH and the butterfly. We had a couple of biomechanics specialists, one doing his PhD in biomechanics, and actually has methodology through golf that can predict injuries. I would suggest the Canucks look them up. through sort of based on hip stabilization and Blake using tools that he learned as a top PGA of America teacher. He applied them through his biomechanics PhD to goaltending. And sort of being able to measure some of those force loads. We think about the butterfly, we think about the reverse VH. There's more shear load, there's more shear internal hip rotation shear force created, stopping hard on a T-push. Like, you can't change how he plays, but when you have a skate that rigid and that fixed with no give, all that energy, no lost energy transfer, it all goes somewhere, and it's up the chain. And boy, I've said it for a few years. I've seen goalies that get out of them and be like, oh my God, I can't believe how good my hips feel. I think I would hope people around him get him out of those skates.
So rather than bailing on reverse VH, that's my worry. Is you do all this work, you get him cleaned up, he's as good as you, and then you just ask him to do the same stuff, and that just sounds like you're banging your head against that brick wall expecting things to change. But do you think of all the things that you could theoretically change in his game, you think that's maybe the best bang for the buck is changing skates?
I mean, it's what I like. I mean, at this point, it's one of the few they haven't tried.
It's the easiest one, too.
Hurt.
It's the easiest one, because changing your style is a lot harder.
I would agree with that. I mean, skates are just like, skates are a massive connection point. Like, it's such a huge part of goaltending, that familiarity, the pitch, the angle, the lie. But listen, I've sent that same note to a couple of guys who switched into them and then got a note a year later saying, I wish I'd listened. Because they switched out of them, and they're like, man, I can't believe how much better it feels once I got back out of them. Carey Price switched to them and lasted a year and a half. So there's just no give in those skates. So that's pretty layman. I'm not pretending that's going to fix everything. There's a lot of stuff going on here. But I do think, let's be honest. The organization, I think when the knee injury occurred during the playoffs, I think there are people in the organization that blamed reverse VH, that blamed how often he was in it, that blamed the teaching of Ian Clark and how hard he pushed him. So I just think that that's also a part of what makes Thatcher Demko his best. Like, he wasn't this guy before he learned that system. Can you get that same level out of him without playing that style? I don't pretend to have the answers, but I think at this point, given how long he's played it, I don't know how easy it would be to change it.
I'm just glad that as you made a golf analogy and someone who may have the answers, you mentioned Blake, because the last time the three of us played golf, Kevin, you and I played 18 at Northview as it's meant to be played, and Blake went on safari, you may remember.
I don't remember that.
Oh, I do.
Really?
I remember all your 18th hole blow-ups, because God knows I've got 5 for every one of yours.
I was just going to say, we bring me on as the goaltending guy, but if you've ever seen me play either golf or goaltending...
Oh, don't sell yourself short. Don't.
Biomechanics. What do they say about those who can't teach... Or those who can't play, teach.
Yeah, that's it.
And then the amendment to that is those that can't teach talk about it as journalists.
What's next for the Canucks? Because Lankinen has to take over here for the foreseeable future. Tolopilo has had some speed wobbles. Like, how many games can Lankinen play? I'm getting a report from Logue on Twitter. Eddie Lack looked really good last night versus
I heard that.
the Shoresy team. What are their options here?
Listen, as I reach behind me to get Eddie Lack's mask from last night, because
really?
Because Eddie gave me he gave me 12 hours notice, and I gave my mask artist 3 hours notice to create this for last night's game.
Very cool.
So shout out to Basil from Custom Cages for pulling it off, and then credit to Eddie for getting a bunch of cast and alumni signatures post game. We'll have a charity. We'll make sure that raises some good money for charity this summer.
Good.
He did look really good last night, but he said he's only got that in him once a year at max. That was the first time he'd played goal in almost 4 years.
Yeah,
so
it
was it was a fun night, but I'm guessing his hips, he flew back to Arizona this morning. I'm guessing the hips were speaking different languages to him on that plane at 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know those goalies like to play out in retirement. Kevin, your namesake, Mr. Lankinen, because Blake and I have been talking about him today's show and over the course of the season. Is it just it's more of a mess in front of him, and that's why he doesn't look as good? I know he took that personal leave too, so maybe there's something weighing on him, but compare and contrast Lankinen last year versus Lankinen this year for us.
Well, I mean, Lankinen Lankinen last year was a tale of two seasons too, right? Like the first half of the season, earned the contract, was incredible. Second half, the numbers dropped off. So this might be a workload thing. I do think that at the beginning of the year, and I alluded to it at the time without getting specific, and I'm not going to get specific now, but there was a lot going on in his life at the start of this season. And so I think some of that had an effect on how he played. Now, here's the thing. Last couple have been a little, to use your line, Blake, on Tolopilo, for Lankinen too, they've been a little more speed wobbly the last couple. But up until that, so up until the last two starts from mid-December, so a good 5.5 week stretch in which they didn't win a single game, his adjusted save percentage was top 10 in the National Hockey League. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that he's played at that level all season. He hasn't. He's used that stretch to climb right back to league average, his performance relative to environment. But he performed at a top 10 level for more than a month, and you did not win a game. This is not a goaltending problem. Okay, and I don't think anybody's pretending it is, but when we say Kevin Lankinen isn't playing as well, Kevin Lankinen has had some really good stretches for them. Is there an inconsistency? At times, I think when the workload goes up, yes. This is something he will work through. Just because you paid him number one doesn't make him a workhorse number one. 1B might be the best role, and that's not like to diminish his ability. I do want to point out that I think there's been some stretches here, long stretches, where his performance is a whole lot better than the numbers look. And I think almost at times than maybe even the team feels about it, because I look at the adjusted numbers and I don't think they have access to the same ones. They're back to bleeding east-west seam passes. And not only does that hurt on any goaltender, and one of the number one ways to create offense in the National Hockey League, especially below the hash marks where they're the worst, but it plays against Lankinen's strengths. And that wasn't there at the start of last year. And it has been there to a huge degree early, got better in the middle, and it's been worse late again.
Let me ask you this question. Let's do doomsday scenario. Demko doesn't come back from this, not to be the guy that he is. But Lankinen is still signed for a number of years. What else can the Vancouver? Is there somebody in the system within 2 years, within 18 months from today, that you could see pulling down some starts?
Nikita, we believe.
Is it down to that? Would you go looking for free agents in 6 months' time if you're the Canucks? If you don't like the early returns on the surgery, like what's the break glass in case of emergency scenario here?
Well, I guess it depends on what you're trying to do next year and how much of an emergency you view that.
Yeah, I guess there's that.
He didn't play here, but he got a nice ovation from the fans. I mean, talent-wise, Archer Shilov's and letting him go, for a late-round pick or a mid-round pick is neat. But I understood where they were at the time.
Yep.
I would want to get an answer on Nikita Tolopilo.
Yep.
You're right, Blake. He had some speed wobbles. He also had some good starts in there. He is a guy who, when you talk to him, is actively trying to learn the league. There's a lot to learn here. You moved on Shilov's quickly, in part because you were trying to win and you couldn't afford to give him the opportunity to learn at this level.
Yep.
Traffic, we talked a lot about it with Arturs. It is one of the hardest things for any goalie in the league to figure out, young goalies especially. Goalies it's the toughest thing in the NHL right now. It's not just the degree of the traffic, it's the purposeful nature of it. It has never been like this before. Really difficult. The only way to learn it is to experience it. It's not the same in the American Hockey League. So I'd be thinking right now, as much as they want to roll Kevin Lankinen out there and sort of prove that he's worth that contract, I'd want to get a look at Nikita Tolopilo. As long as we're finding a lot doing any damage to his confidence, and I don't think that would be the case unless the 6 against starts to pile up on a nightly basis. But I'd want to know what I have there. As terms of the future, Ty Young was exceptional in the first year pro last year. Has taken a step back. Aku Koskenvuo had a shutout the other night. He is a guy that I think is a very legitimate NHL prospect. Medvedev's years away. You need to buy yourself some time in a window here. Ultimately, you have Demko and Lankinen under contract. I haven't looked up Tolopilo and whether they need to make a decision on him this summer. So if it's not Tolopilo, or depending on his waiver status, because I think other teams have kind of looked at the size of him and they see a few things in his game like, hey, if I could fix this, if I could just get him to stay in between his posts and not chase, man, there's some potential there. So if he doesn't require waivers, he'd be your answer. Otherwise, you're going to have to go find your next Yuri Patera, because they won't play him up here after the Florida game, it seems. but he's quietly putting together a decent season behind an equally injured-riddled team with the Abbotsford Canucks. And you can see how athletic he is. Like, there's a goalie there. And so I guess, like, in some ways, that's the flip question. If you're rebuilding next year and trying to get a high draft pick, and Demko does come back healthy, and you've got him in Lankinen, like, it's like Calgary with Dustin Wolf and Devin Cooley. They might be the thing that keeps them out of finishing in the bottom.
Fair.
Little stat: they played 6 goalies in Abbotsford.
Yeah,
4 of them have save percentages over 900.
So, not bad.
So there's that.
Well, I haven't checked, and there's been a couple starts, but last time I was down there, I think Patera was like 914 or 918, like in
918.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I would hope so, or a veteran guy like that. Lastly, Kevin, and I know you still do some work with Ian Clark. Of course, one-time Canucks director of goaltending, now Canucks scout, and sadly his body let him down. He's not able to get out on the ice anymore and instruct the goaltenders. I mean, everyone, I think, viewed it as a fait accompli that Ian would play out his contract this year with the Canucks and move on and maybe even be a director of goaltending for another franchise as he was once before with Columbus. But I saw Dolly while wondering, Thatcher has such a good rapport there with Ian, and if the job now is to get Demko back somehow, that is there a world where Ian Clark might still be with Canucks Sports Entertainment and this club going forward? What's your sense there?
Don't know. I honestly don't know. They took the director of goaltending title away when there was the role switch. I said at the time I didn't believe that was his intention in transitioning out of coaching was to lose that title as well. So I think it would depend on that. I would assume other teams would be interested in having him as their director of goaltending. I don't know if this one is. I genuinely don't know. And so we'll see where that goes. I'm not so sure the contract ends this year. There might be another year on that deal. I'm not 100% on that. But
all right.
If that's the case, then, we'll see. At the end of the day, taking the director of goaltending title means that other teams can come and get him anyway. But you'd have to be willing to pay him at that level. And I will say this about the National Hockey League. We have seen an increase in teams that have directors of goaltending. We have not seen an increase in what teams spend on goaltending and directors of goaltending. And so I think there are a lot of teams that would love to have him, but that's a shorter list that are willing to pay the freight because it's absurd to me. I think 6 of the 7 goalies drafted under his watch in Columbus made the NHL. So when you guys talk about what does the pipeline look like Ty Young can play. I know this has been a tough year. Koskin Vuo can play. Medvedev's the real deal. So there is a pipeline there, just like there was in Columbus. I mean, Columbus moved off Daniel Tarasoff, and Florida picked him up. There's a clue. Just same with Brandon Bussey in Carolina. Just look for the goalies that Florida has interest in. Because Daniel Tarasoff is top 10 in adjusted save percentage right now at a time when Bob's in the bottom 10 in Columbus or in Florida. And there's another draft pick of Ian Clark. So I don't know where this goes. I genuinely have no idea what the feelings are between the individual and the organization, whether they would bestow that title on him again or whether he'd even be interested in it. It's a tough one for me because there's a relationship there. I try and stay out of that stuff.
I hear you.
But, walk that line. But
it seems they might want to invest in this category.
Well, yeah.
There seems to be some turmoil.
At this stage of the game, yes. If I'm looking for areas to invest, this might be front of list.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, again, you had that asset there that had that same track record I just talked about, and you decided to. I mean, he's still around, but I find it hard to look at the way they handled that as anything other than an emotion.
Yeah. And stuffing the genie back in the bottle isn't usually what they want to do.
Not usually the way it works. Marvelous stuff, my friend. You make us smarter on this topic each and every time you join. Appreciate you fitting us in today,
yes,
Kevin. Thank you for that. All right. Be well. We'll catch up down the road.
Thanks, guys.
That's Kevin Woodley of InGoal Media. He also covers the Vancouver Canucks for NHL.com. As mentioned off the top, the authority on goaltending in this community, at least amongst people who aren't proprietary.
I don't know that I feel more relieved if I'm the Vancouver Canucks listening to that. Again, and he makes a good point. How good do you want to be in the next couple of years anyhow?
Yeah. But concern has to be high.
Yeah.
Once again, like with the popliteus, that one was bizarre, but now a third hip surgery, and as he mentioned, at least at this moment, he hasn't had anything come back to him amongst his network about who can speak to that, in terms of a successful return after a third hip surgery. You were right. He's already had both done. No way of knowing if he'll be back. Maybe the skates are a problem and that he needs to change the actual skate that he's using.
I mean, at this point, I think that's...
that's a tap-in, is it not?
It's a tap-in.
Right? Because this can persist with Thatcher, so why not change the skate? And then I think he's right in terms of, okay, let's see what we got with Tolopilo. It could be the deep end of the pool, but what other options do you have now, right? You've got Lankinen under contract, who has played better than what the flat numbers indicate, and you need another one, so let's see what Big Nikita, the Belarusian, has.
My problem with watching Tolopilo is I don't know that I've seen 60 minutes from him. There's been a lot of games where I've seen periods where I thought he was outstanding.
Ditto.
And he's ended up still giving up 5 goals in the game.
But Blake, yeah. And, sadly, he has been shelled a number of times with the Vancouver Canucks just being pitiful in front of him. But hey, welcome to the NHL. That's a lot of young players, right?
I don't know what this stat is, but his goals against average is 4. Mm-hmm. But his save percentage, and this isn't good, but you'd think it'd be worse, is .881.
Yeah.
That's a pretty high save percentage with a guy of goals against 4.
I think that's part of the learning, part of the process, right? You come into the NHL, it's a very hard league. You play a great period. Okay. Now we need to see you string 2 together. Now we need to string a game together. Now we need to see you string a number of starts
Doesn't sound
together.
like it's tonight, but I think he got to play this week sometime. We'll see.
Yep, for sure. That was Kevin Woodley of InGoal Media, and Cam Robinson is coming up next. Sick Harrison Price from the historic Wall Center.
And this segment brought to you by your Pacific Toyota dealers. The Toyota Prius plug-in hybrid is here to solve all your vehicle woes. It solves your woe of driving into the gas station, seeing the gas prices, and you say whoa. It solves your woe of not being excited to drive. Solves that. And it solves your style. It'll have people going, whoa. So a lot of whoa involved here. And you can get it for a price that makes you go, whoa.
Good whoa.
109 weekly. So $3,300 down, 3.99% APR financing. Go check it out. Take one for a test drive at your Pacific Toyota dealer. ShopToyota.ca.
And if there's 2 gentlemen in my life who know style, it's Blake Price and Cam Robinson, the director of everything.
Oh, yeah, that's what they say about both of us. Yes. Style mavens. Yes.
Common occurrence.
Look at you all geared up. Branding.
Do you work for Elite
marketing.
Prospects?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Would you guys guess
me
it?
Where you...
How could you tell? It's right in my contract. Minimum 2 pieces of gear at all time.
Hey, the one thing I've learned in this podcasting digital space business, we're all human billboards, walking, talking billboards. So
when you got logos as good as this, though, of course you
or
wear
like
it.
Elite Prospects, isn't that stylish? Thatcher Demko done for the season, hip surgery. Your reaction, Mr. Robinson?
Not surprised. Last week somebody said that it was all but done for this year and surgery is likely. And I mean, Thatcher is no stranger to hip surgery, right? I believe it was 2015. He had double hip surgery on both labrums there, and at that, before the surgery, he had like 0 internal rotation on his hips, and that was a big deal to have it. He was putting up massive numbers there at Boston College, despite that. Then he got the surgery, and then he came back and continued to light it up and look really good. So not a death sentence to a goaltender, these labrum surgeries. But like I said, he's definitely familiar with them. And he was basically the only one that was going to really have any chance of slowing this tank down. So it's not good for him, but it will be good for them getting low down those standings and staying there.
It's a hip surgery. It's not a popliteus surgery. They say it's unrelated to the absence next season. I mean, you don't need to believe that. Do we believe that? Or do you believe everything's connected here?
I'll let the medical professionals tell me that it's not connected, and we'll take that at face value, because I don't have the expertise to argue otherwise.
Yeah. I mean, it's a career now that has been.
Marred.
I mean, it's not.
But
over.
how about that extension, guys, at 8.5 for 3 more years after this one? Huh?
The career's not over, and there's a redemption arc that is possible here. But I mean, let's use a more realistic word. The career has been ruined here to this point for Thatcher Demko by his health.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate because he's such a talented goaltender. Like, he is really, truly one of the best American goaltenders alive. You know, he pushed really close for a Vezina that one season. I think that if he had stayed healthy, he would have been on that podium a few different times throughout his career. But now, 30 years old, another hip surgery, and just like he said, marred by injuries. He just can't stay healthy for a full season, and that's only going to get more difficult as he pushes into his 30s. So yeah, you hope you get value out of him, because you want, especially even when you're rebuilding, it's not like they planned this rebuild. And they wanted to have someone back there that could clean up some of the errors that are going to occur. But it's just, that kind of, they fell into that. They're like, well, we're going to be bad now, and at least we've got Demko back there that will help a little bit. And you hope that he can get back to that level and just stay healthy and be able to play 45, 50 games a season through the back half of this contract.
And Matt, you're right. The Demko extension is a whoopsies. The Lankinen extension is a thank goodness.
Well, so they're all interconnected, and they're all connected, of course, with our buddy Archer Shilofs, who we saw here, if not on the ice on Sunday. And I've said this many times. When they re-signed Lankinen, I thought, oh, okay, that's pretty rich for a guy who has never really been truly a number one for the full duration of a season. But it did come in as reasonably favorable, comparable with some of the other goalie extensions that were signed last year. Now, guys like Joey Decourt have gone on to become number one absolute starting goaltenders, and I'm not sure that Lankinen quite reached that point. But I was under the understanding that when they signed Lankinen, they did so because they saw a season this year of securing the crease, Lankinen and Demko, and then having Thatcher play it out. You had more time. You got to use it on the health file. If you weren't in the playoff race, you had a very nice trade chip there. If you were in the playoff race, then probably your goaltending was a big part of this. And okay, now you're free to move Archer Shilovs. But, now the way it turns out, Cam, they re-signed Lankinen. They haven't really gotten good returns there. They extended Demko, which, looks all the more awful. And they let Artie walk, who's turned into a pretty good goaltender in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, you look at it and knowing what we know now, would you rather have a young guy like Artur Silovs in net that you're like, hey, he has number one potential. Maybe there's up and downs. He's a young goalie. It can be a little hectic at times, but you have that piece there that maybe it turns out right for you. You're not looking at Kevin Lankinen and being like, hey, this is the goalie of the future. It's not realistic, right? And so now you're kind of looking up and down that, and you're like, who is the goalie of the future here, right? Are you banking on Medvedev at this point? Like, it's a question mark for sure on who you want. They have a lot of pieces in a lot of areas here that you can look at and be like, long term, that's who we want to build around. In net, not so much.
Can you imagine, though, guys, if they had said, okay, we're just going to wait to see how you are this year? He'd be headed towards unrestricted free agency in the summer. Like, that'd be it. Thatcher Demko would be done as a Vancouver Canuck, presumably. I mean, unless they signed him for a dirt cheap show me deal for next year. I mean, that was on the table for them.
And you'd have $8.5 million in cap space over the next 3
years. If you felt it matters. Yeah. Yeah. It doesn't matter for next year, but the 2 years beyond that, it would matter. Yeah.
Well, and you asked who is the goaltender of the future question. And I know the Canucks and their fans were super excited about second-round pick Alexei Medvedev, the Russian goalie playing for the best junior program in CHL. London Knights. They took him with the 47th overall selection. But I had noticed, Cam, and I don't know how much you followed this.
His second half has not been great.
He has struggled of late. I'm seeing tweets out of the OHL where he is not really on his game with, again, a team that usually wins a lot. 15-11-1 and 879 or 897 save percentage and a 308 goals against for Medvedev. But I guess you as prospect guy is going to tell me it is super early. Don't be at all daunted by any of that. right? Right?
Yes, that's what I'll say. That is what I'll say. And especially with a young goaltender, you do. I mean, I will trust the goaltender guys that they see things in him that they like and they think that he has potential, and it's very raw, right? It's you don't love seeing guys hanging around sub 900, but in junior hockey, it is often par for the course for a guy who's seeing a lot of action, but he's not seeing that much action, right? Like, it's not like he's played 50 games and it's, like Jack Ivankovic last year. He was hovering around 900 or below 900 and, but he's playing a ton and not on a great team. And then now he goes to Michigan and he's putting up great numbers there. And so you see that track, but so again, very, very young. And if the goaltender guys like him, they think there's something to work with there, I'll believe them. But it was a little rich at the time when they took him there in the 40s. For me, I thought that was a little early. But if he's your guy, then he's your guy.
Yeah, and the other thing we should say there is London is merely the 8th best team in the OHL this year. They're second in their division, Cam. The horror.
Yeah, not dominant this year.
No, exactly. They haven't been as dominant after a Memorial Cup last year. Okay, let's move on to Evander Kane because there's been a lot of flurry there. Reports that Dallas and Colorado are interested, and now from Dollywall that the agent Dan Milstein has been granted permission to facilitate a trade. What's your read on the Evander Kane trade market and file?
Yeah, I heard LA was kicking the tires on him as well, and maybe a couple of teams out in the East potentially. Here's the thing about Evander Kane, and I'm not shocked that there's a number of teams that are interested in him. He plays kind of that heavier playoff style that you're looking for when you're bringing in a winger. Either you're bringing in a winger that's going to be like a one-shot goaltending or a goal-scoring option for you, or you want him to be heavy. And so Kane has that heaviness to him. But, he's playing at his lowest full-season goal and point pace since his rookie year right now. He's clearly lost a step with his stride. His 5-on-5 defensive impact is abhorrent at times. And he long kind of has that baggage attached to him as a potential dressing room issue or just, maybe not the most well-loved player in the room. So he has all these things against him. So when you look at like comparables, you look at Mason Marchment, a second and a fourth. Bolivier last year got a second. Brandon Tanev got a second. Kuzmenko with that, that offensive upside as a winger too had a third. I think people are going to be hoping that it's a second-round pick or a quality prospect and a mid-pick, but it wouldn't shock me if it ends up being similar to what they paid to get him in the summer, which is a fourth. If you can do better than that, if you can get a third and a fifth, something like that, I think you're happy. But you never know. It just takes one GM to be like, ooh, there's 4 or 5 teams that are knocking on the door here, and he's the guy we want. Well, all right, we'll give you a second. So that's surely what Vancouver's hoping for.
Hey, does anybody here think it's a failure if they just get a 4th round back for it? Like, I could care less.
Well, I think it's a failure because you committed $5+ million of cap space to him, and it compromised the re-signing of Pius Suter, who would have made you more.
Okay, but you're going back to the original sin. I'm talking about in the now. Is it a failure if you only get a 4th round pick? And my answer is that is no. Like, whatever you get,
you're just going to discard original sin.
In this context, yes.
The here and now you have to salvage.
That's right.
Don't look back.
No time machines. No time machines. You can't fix that.
Yeah. Yeah, don't get a 7th like Daniel Sprong pulled last year or something like that. That would be, obviously.
He was also part of the problem. Daniel Sprong.
Who was it they let go again because they wanted Daniel Sprong? Was it? Oh, Pud Colson. That's right.
Yeah. Pud Colson.
He could be a useful piece.
Yeah, young too.
Got a 4th rounder for him, though.
Yeah.
Tyler Myers opened the door a crack to waving his no move last week. How do you size up a Tyler Myers market beyond double extra large and extra long sleeves?
Yeah. Extra long sticks too. I think that there would be a healthy market. I think there are teams that are, have already called and been like, let us know if something changes, if you do decide to move this player, because I think when you're looking at someone who can play defense, who's long, who can play physical. We saw, remember that playoff series against Edmonton a couple years ago? Like he was physical, he was mean, and that's what you want out of Tyler Myers. And I'm sure teams that are looking at their playoff matchups being like, we could use this guy on our third pair. So absolutely, if we were talking about a little bit off there, if he wants to control his destiny a little bit here, with the no move and rather than the no trade when that kicks in the summer is like, hey, yeah, like if it's Florida, if it's Tampa, if it's somewhere really desirable that he thinks he can win, his career doesn't have too many years left on it. I think that there would certainly be a market, Montreal, like there's teams, especially out East. I think there's a lot of teams that would be very happy to part with a pretty good pick or a pretty good prospect to get Tyler Myers.
The use of the young players on this roster right now, we were sort of wondering what the best approach would be, and then fate steps in and sort of helps you out a little bit in a twisted way. Brock Besser gone for a little bit with a suspected concussion, and then you got the injury to Zebullium as well, which takes him out of the mix. So Lekkerimäki and Mancini come up. Is there anything else you'd like to see done differently here with the young players? Either in the here and now or by the end of the season, just their usage, being around all this, losing at the NHL level. Should they be playing games here? Should they be playing at the AHL level, having more success? What do you think of the overall treatment and usage of these young players?
Not like the Abbey Canucks are having a ton of success this year either.
They're getting better, but yeah,
they are. But generally speaking, I was fine with them keeping Lekkerimäki down there, even though he was pointing up pretty good there for a bit of a stretch. Now it makes sense to bring him up. Same with Mancini. It's like he was clearly surpassed on the depth chart by Pettersson and Wilander, and then obviously Zebullium coming in. His preseason flashes seem like a lifetime ago, right? When we've seen him at the NHL, he's an interesting player because he doesn't really fit the mold that you're looking. He's not physical enough or defensive enough to be a traditional third pair guy. He's not offensive enough or dynamic enough to be an offensive guy. He's turning 24 soon. It's like the runways, it's not looking great for him to be an everyday NHLer, I would say. Lekkerimäki absolutely should be, and I think that you work him into the lineup, just like we talked about early in the season. Put him in opportunities that he can succeed. It's going to be tough to succeed with this lineup generally, but you give him chances, and so you want to find little micro goals at the success. How many shots on goal are you getting? How many high danger looks are you getting? Are you creating off the rush? And we can check those boxes off as we go. They don't have to end up in the back of the net all the time. As far as deployment with some of these young guys, I'd like to see Aatu Räty get some more looks. I know that the center ice depth chart is getting clogged up a little bit too with Hedl coming back. But at the same time, like this kid, he's done everything you've asked of him, right? He's seeing 12 minutes a night. He's, I think he leads the team in defensive zone draws, right? Like his starts are always in the defensive zone. It's like 40% in the O zone. Despite that, he's above water on, goals for, goals against. He's above water on the Corsi on the shot share. And he wins like 60% of his draws. It's like, so I understand that you need to play some of these older players just to market them and try to sell them and get any asset you can. But then when that time is done, like let's start feeding the young kids some more ice. Let's get him, let's get Ugrin. Let's start putting them into some better spots and some more opportunities to showcase what they could become. Because for me, I think Räty has like legitimate 3C potential. And you want that homegrown, right? Like you want that coming from within.
You still think that, Cam? Because he's been healthy. He's been healthy scratch here, and of course, going back even to when they acquired him, Cam, we were all having the conversation: is he a center? Is he a winger? Well,
I mean, the amount of faceoffs he wins, like he can certainly win a draw. I think that it's been really curious. I had someone reach out to me like a couple months ago too and be like, maybe you should look into this. Like, is there a reason that he's not getting a little more opportunity? Like, is he in a doghouse? Did he do something to Adam Foote? Is that he just hasn't had much of a leash or an opportunity to show much offense? Because he previously earlier in his career and going back to Finland, this is a player who knew how to score. He knew how to set things up. That didn't go away. It might not maximize at the NHL level. And sure, he might. The more likely thing is that he's a fourth liner. But I think that there is a little bit of upside there for him to be a third liner. And it's like, why not test it now? You got nothing to lose at this point. Let's see let's really test the waters here. What can he become?
Guys, he just turned 23, and in his last 74 games, he's played 74 games in the last 2 years. He's got 10 goals and 23 points in those 74 games. Like that, for a 22-year-old, like that's not terrible. Like you
10 minutes a night.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
Yeah. And that's why.
And he's a plus player. Like he find another guy who's played the last 75 games for the Canucks that's a plus player.
Yeah.
No. That's fair. And I also wholly concur with what Cam had to say on Victor Mancini. Like, this is a very, very important stretch of games for Victor Mancini. With Buiam out, presuming he's going to get in the lineup, and I sure hope he will, because Cam, his last game with the club was the blowout loss to Edmonton, where they moved Wilander to the left side for him. Like, I don't think they're doing that a whole lot going forward.
He didn't look good.
He looked awful. So, look, if they're going to do that again here, then holy cow, does Mancini have to take advantage of whatever carrot they're going to dangle here in his return to the NHL club with Bouillon on the sidelines.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm with you. It's important for him to show he needs to pick a lane, I think, and he needs to reinvent himself as a third pair guy. He has the size. He can skate well in a straight line. Use your physicality, become tighter defensively, and just forget about being kind of that freewheeler puck rushing guy that he was trying to become.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's move on to draft prospects.
Because everybody else has.
This market is ready. Vancouver Canucks, who are out there talking to some of these guys at the top of the draft. But, well, Cam, first of all, you tell me, how unusual is it for an NHL team to be seeking out and interviewing, talking to these top prospects in late January? It seems a little early with 5+ months to the draft, but you tell me.
Nah, it happens. Usually it's more like the head scout that's there watching, maybe than the execs they're watching, but having those meetings mid-season, it's not completely uncommon. And I know that Vancouver isn't the only team that's spoken to Keaton Verhoff as well. And I mentioned there in that tweet too that I expect his stock to keep trending up as teams get more FaceTime, and that's because he's a very personable kid. Like one of the biggest things that I appreciate about him is that in his game, he recognizes some of his limitations and he actively is trying to improve on them in season. We saw it even at the World Juniors. He got better game over game once he got into the lineup for Canada there too. So I do think Vancouver is very high on him. If I had to guess, I would say he would be the number 3 on their board right now. But that's not uncommon, as I had that, the scout poll, and there's a number of teams that had him number 3 on their board. So he's very well looked at.
Is the 1-2 turning into a bit of a middleweight battle here, or cruiserweight battle of two guys that are rounding into form? I mean, we talked about the post World Juniors synopsis for most people. Gavin McKenna's looking pretty good here of late. Is he's responding a little bit.
He's been awesome 2 weekends in a row now.
Yeah. So are we starting to look at really something that's going to be a coin toss right to the very end, with probably the tie going to McKenna based on top end?
Probably, and also name brand. When you're picking one, you want to sell tickets, you want to sell jerseys, you want to give your fans something to be excited about. And McKenna definitely has that name recognition. So if all things were coming down to being completely equal, I think he might get the nod just on that alone. Like I said in that, so I 10 teams, I pulled 10 teams for that. 6 had Stenberg at 1 and 4 had McKenna. One team had Stenberg at 3, one team had McKenna at 4. But otherwise it was, so it's razor thin, those margins at the top, and then a big gap before we got to Verhoff and Smits and Tynan Lawrence. So yeah, I do think they're starting to go a little punch for punch here too, because Stenberg's he's not putting up big multi-point games, but he's still scoring at the SHL level, which I think, one of those is worth maybe 2 at the NCAA. So it is. And McKenna, he has looked very good. He's looking engaged. He's getting to the middle of the ice. He's shooting more. And those
middle of the ice part,
everything I wanted from him.
And the other thing we should mention is Stenberg with Frölunda. They're still playing Champions League too, right? Yep. If I'm not mistaken. Yep. So he's playing some pretty top competition across other European sides on top of playing in the Swedish men's league. Just back on and Mike, can you put that graphic up of the elite prospects composite list from the other thing we should mention, because as Campbell noted, this is not an exact science. Those names towards 15 to 20, fair chance one of those guys shakes down to where the Canucks' second first-round pick is with the Minnesota selection. So familiarize yourself with that sort of area of the draft going forward, because there's always a guy or two that falls, and somebody late in the first goes, oh my God, I can't believe he was available when we selected. Anyways, that's an aside. I want to get back to Verhoff for a second. Because we talk about McKenna and Stenberg. Verhoff this past weekend, goal and assist, goal and 2 helpers, both of them victories. We have a Canucks fan here who has done a side-by-side comparison. I want to bring this tweet up. There you go. Verhoff, 17 years old, playing in the NCAA, 17 points in 22 games. Werenski, at the same age, 25 points in 35 games. Those are very similar PPGs, Cam. Tell me, is there any comparison to be made beyond just the statistical output as a 17-year-old in the NCAA between Zach Werenski and Keaton Verhoff?
Not a ton stylistically. The big difference there is that Zach Werenski can fly. Like he can skate. Keaton Verhoff, I watched those weekend games. The flashes are there. He's so big. He's raw. He has offensive awareness. He knows but his feet are a bit heavy. And when he lugs the puck up ice, it is lugging the puck up ice. He kind of lumbers up there. He doesn't have that ability to explode through holes. There was one play where he, took it from behind the net, his own net, carried all the way up the ice, gained entry into the zone, and was clearly going to do that little back slip pass to the guy standing at the blue line who just inside the zone, and the opponent read it, but he did it anyways. And against an NHL team, that's getting picked off, and we're going 3-on-1 the other way with, or maybe 3-on-2 with a forward back. But it worked. And then he ends up getting a secondary assist out of the play because he moves over and it's one-timed in. So he just doesn't have that dynamicism that he can really explode through pockets and really create for himself. And that does concern me. It does. I look at a guy like David Jurasek, who we were really high on at EP in his draft year. He's struggling. He's struggling to he's already been moved once. He's struggling to make the NHL because the feet are a little slow, but he's also a pretty lazy player. And I won't say Keaton Verhoff is. You look at a guy like Carter Yakimchuk, another big guy who could really score in the West. The feet just weren't great. Again, he's going to probably have a difficult time moving up into the NHL level too. So I think Verhoff's better than both those players. I do. I think that he's smarter defensively. I think he's really engaged. I think he'll be a good defender. But, at best, I think we're calling him an average NHL skater, where Zach Werenski is a burner.
So is it first pair or second pair upside for Verhoff as you see it?
You got to say it's first pair just because it is all around game with that size on the right side. I do think that there is top pair upside, but I went back and forth with some scouts on this, is that for me, I look at a guy like Chase Reed, who is 6'3" and skates, demonstrably better than Verhoff does, and maybe doesn't have the same tools defensively long-term that Verhoff will have, but offensively, I think that he has the goods. He doesn't have as big a rocket as Keaton does, but his playmaking ability, his skating is certainly a class ahead. That for me, I'm like, that's the guy I look at being he could be a power play one guy and a top pair guy ahead of a kid like Keaton Verhoff.
So let me ask this question, and very unlikely, but I just want to throw it out there, because I have so many Canucks fans telling me, even if we finish last, there's no way we're going to win the lottery. You guaranteed we're going to pick third. If they're on the clock at number 3 with the 2 forwards gone and Verhoff as the consensus, is there any merit to moving down a couple of spots, picking up an asset and taking one of these other prospects?
I mean, if you want to go defense, right, you could slide back 2-3 spots and you'd be like, we're going to get Carson Karls, or we're going to get Albert Smits, or, we're going to get Chase Reed, and we're going to pick up an asset. You're feeling like that's like a 95% success rate that you're going to get that. And if you don't, well, maybe we get Caleb Malhotra, or we get Tynan Lawrence, and now we fill a center need. So for sure, I think that would be definitely there's something worthwhile there, especially if a team wants to pay you something worthwhile to slide back. It would be surprising to me if that's what Vancouver did. They don't tend to do those creative things. And it's you don't see teams really slide out of lottery spots too often.
That's it. You don't see, there have been we looked at it one year. There have been principally few trades with top 10 picks in the NHL draft. It's really too bad. They really ought to take a page from the NFL guys.
Before you go,
or the NBA even too.
Yeah. Oh, they trade the pay all the time. It's great. It's great theater.
Before you go, dig back into your prospects memory banks a little bit as to what you originally thought when you saw Shane Wright and what you see from Shane Wright right now.
Yeah.
And would you be at all inclined to pursue that player for a rebuild in Vancouver? Again, seems unlikely those two would dance in a trade. Not sure that the Canucks have what the Kraken want.
Yeah.
But if you could entice them with Garland plus for Shane Wright, would you do it?
100%. For sure. Absolutely. Shane Wright is a good player. There's a lot of talent there. And if the talent offensively doesn't come along like you'd hoped, like it unlikely will from when he was a 16-year-old, but even your expectations for him now as a 4th overall pick, if that doesn't come, I still think he has a lot of value for you as like a two-way guy, because he does have good two-way acumen. He's a competitor. No, I would 100%. When his name kind of started floating around out there, is that the Kraken want a true first liner. And I don't think Connor Garland checks that box. I don't think Brock Besser checks that box. I don't think Jake DeBrusk checks that box for them. I think that they can go big fish hunting elsewhere. So I don't think it's likely, but absolutely. If you can get your hands, those are the types of guys you want when you're rebuilding, right? Is that someone who had high pedigree potential, maybe isn't meeting it just yet, but you get your hands on them and you see what you can turn them into. And you know, these kids don't forget how to play, right? It's still in there for them.
Again, this week, he is the mayor of Wrightville. In fact, I think we should just relocate Wrightville's City Hall.
Oh, really?
To Cam Robinson.
He's the rightest of the Wrightville.
He's the rightest of the rights.
Yeah. Get a little extension on my place here.
Is that right with a W or is that right without a W?
Yeah. Shane Wright? Shane Lowry.
He is right on right, and he is right on most everything else he said here. Awesome stuff, Cam. Thank you for this, my friend. Until next week.
Appreciate it, boys. Talk soon.
So here's some price from the historic Wall Center and the Pacific Toyota Dealer Studio, built by Arbor Lee. Big game downtown. Make Sheraton Vancouver Wall Center your home base for game night and beyond. Walk to the action. Sleep like a champ. Plan your stay at wallcenter.com. And Blake, I am wearing my Vancouver Canadians ball cap today because very exciting news coming out of the Seas yesterday. They announced plans to celebrate the 75th anniversary of Nat Bailey Stadium, nay Capilano Stadium. Front and center is a new 75th anniversary stadium logo that the club says celebrates the memories, moments, and magic that live within the walls. Every Tuesday home game this year will be dedicated to the 75th anniversary initiative. Fans going to be treated to eye-catching new on-field look, multiple one-of-a-kind promotions, and more surprises that pay tribute to the legacy and future of the Nat, according to the club.
I want merch. Give me
I
special
think
new
there will
merch.
be merch. General Manager Alan Bailey saying, serving as stewards of this historic ballpark is at the heart of our mission here at the Seas, and we can't wait to both honor the history of this building and kickstart its next era with the completion of a multi-phase capital improvement project this year. And there are at least three new exciting initiatives by way of stadium renovation this season that we can share with you. The first one, and I shared this on social media already, the Seas are opening a Triple O's concession stand in the main concourse. They are tying the historic legacy of Nat Bailey, the restaurateur, to the stadium that bears his name.
That's
really
a long time coming.
Yes,
Long
really good idea. The rooftop patio down the right field line will be open by June 1st, if not sooner. They're hoping to get it a week or two sooner, but June 1st at the latest.
Look at that.
It's being sold for groups of 20 plus for games between June and August. It seats 150 people, and 1/4 of that space, so 30-some seats, in the front corner is going to be open to anybody who has a ticket to the game. First come, first serve there. Now, as you may know, gates open 1 hour before first pitch, which is why they call it a nooner for a 1:05 first pitch ball game. So you're going to want to get there early if you want to sit in those seats. That's going to be a very popular spot at the ballpark this year. And then the new clubhouses will be ready and a go for opening day. The first base dugout is now home to the Seas, and the visitors will be on the third base side. That's never happened before.
Closer to the training center, which is underneath that picnic area.
Correct. No more picnic area there. They've had to comply with Major League Baseball's requirements for minor league facilities, and so that's why that area has been under construction. You may have noticed if you've gone to the Nats. So a sparkling new ballpark awaits us in April. Season tickets and Nat packs are available now. Single game tickets will be released on February 21st, so mark that date because it's very, very busy in the summer at the net. You want to plan ahead. The home opener goes April 7th versus Eugene. For more information on everything Seas, get your tickets 604-872-5232 or CanadiansBaseball.com. Major League Baseball Pipeline has released its list of top 100 prospects, and the Seattle Mariners lead all ball clubs with 7 players on that list. We've been telling you about this M's farm system for some time, and given that they still haven't added that bat, they may have to rely on some of these kids this season. Blue Jays have 3 guys in the top 100. Trey Savage checks in as the number 12 prospect. He did not exhaust his rookie eligibility last year, Blake, so he is eligible for AL Rookie.
I think he might be a Major League Baseball pitcher.
I think he might start the year with Toronto.
Yeah. I think he might work.
Number 45 is shortstop JoJo Parker. He was their first-round pick last year out of a Mississippi high school. Hoping to see him with the C's this year, but I think he'll start a little lower. And then Arjun Namala, who we saw last year, their top pick the previous year, checks in at number.
And again, we want Arjun to make the next step here.
We do.
As well.
We do.
Probably doesn't get it to start the season. We'll see. I mean, it wouldn't blow us away, but hey, a few weeks, a month with the C's before moving on, that would work too.
Whitecaps preseason schedule is set. And it actually began this morning while most of you were sleeping. A 2-0 defeat to a Ukrainian side in Marbella. Marbella?
Yes, Marbella.
Spain.
You didn't miss much.
Well, the Caps started a representative lineup. Thomas Muller, Takaoka, Blackman, Kubas, Priso, Cabrera, the newcomer Larraz. All but Priso were subbed off in the second half. Many of the other regulars, White, Laborda, Berhalter.
It was a monsoon, though.
Final 45. Yes.
It was
a
gross.
wee bit. I mean, you could have had that here, Whitecaps.
Yeah.
In fact, yesterday here would have been nicer. A little chilly.
Yeah, I don't think they were able to work on much. Yeah. You're just trying to survive.
They'll play 4 more tune-ups before that February 18th CONCACAF Champions Cup first leg versus CS Cartaginés in Costa Rica. MLS opener is February 21st at BC Place versus Real Salt Lake. We're still awaiting a lease arrangement, though, right?
Yeah, no, I think you're good for this year.
Well, we know they're
yeah.
We'll see where, and it's become a little bit of a row. We'll see where the lease goes with the Whitecaps and
the interesting
BC
thing is going to be
Place.
for the Canadian Championship Series in, I believe, May, right, where they're already kicked out of BC Place
for the World Cup.
But they've got to play Canadian Championship games, so this is going to be fun. I hope they go to Swangard. I don't know. Like I hope they play there. They're going to be on artificial turf everywhere else, so I'd rather see them on grass. Go play your Canadian Championship Series games at Swangard Stadium. I hope they do.
I like that. I also like the idea of much like the Lions, the team getting out to the rest of British Columbia.
It's just quality of pitch is the issue.
I don't know if there's a place in the Okanagan that could.
Yeah.
But we know there's a place on the island.
You could do Victoria for sure, and I don't even mean Starlight. I mean, I would go back to Royal Athletic.
Well, there's 2 places.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's hard to know what to make of this latest report. And I'm telling you right now, we probably would have ignored this had Thomas Muller not signed here in Vancouver. But there are reports that Robert Lewandowski may not return to FC Barcelona and has, quote, concrete options in MLS. The Whitecaps are name-checked here. A move could happen this winter or in the summer, with Vancouver Whitecaps emerging as one of the potential destinations alongside Chicago Fire, huge Polish community in Chicago. Inter Miami also in the mix.
Okay, so
37-year-old Polish international, one of the greatest strikers of all time, and played with Muller at Bayern, making 252 appearances and scoring 238
apparently
goals.
He's not looked good this year, but still, I think he would be effective enough. Here's the pluses and the I've
so
heard.
He hasn't looked good at FC Barcelona.
Yes, yeah.
Which would be, what, a top 5, top 10 club in the world?
Yes, yeah. Now, I've been told he does not fancy living in the United States right now. So that's a negative. It's a positive if you're hoping for the Whitecaps.
Yeah.
Now, Axel has already commented on this. He says it's not happening. But I take you back to mid-August. He was asked about Muller. He said, come on.
It was the one player that he sort of poo-pooed, and it happened.
Yeah.
And we think only because of the gravitas of the name, and he didn't want to get this market worked up for an international footballing super all-timer.
For what he thought was a small percentage chance.
Exactly.
And I think that, again, I don't think Axel's lying. That is way too strong. I think he's trying to manage expectations here.
Right.
So, but, again, the template is there. Poo-poo it until you think you've got it in the bag.
And they're buddies, right? Like, that's the thing.
Yeah.
Is you have Thomas Muller, who, needless to say, enjoyed his time here in Vancouver.
Now, it's not a position of need. Like, I would have been a little bit more excited if this was maybe a midfielder talking about it. Like, a striker is not what they need.
Let me stop you now before you dig yourself a hole. It's Robert Lewandowski.
No, it'd be fun. I'm not saying it wouldn't be fun.
Like, if you're putting together your best 11 of the century, he's on the team.
Yeah, probably true. Both of them are on the team. We've become.
I read something like he's the only footballer ever to score 100 goals at 3 different. Like
we'd be Miami North.
We kind of would be. I'm here for it.
So am I.
Especially when I saw one guy basically win MLS Cup on his own with 3 touches in December.
Yeah.
Former Whitecap Ali Ahmed is turning into a god at Norwich City. 2 goals, 2 assists in 3 matches, all victories for the English Championship side. This was a club staring down relegation in the 2nd division of English football, but they're now up to 18th on the table out of 24. And importantly for the Canadian men's national team going into a World Cup year, Ahmed is getting tons of run against quality opposition. One of those victories came at league leader Coventry. That was yesterday.
Yep.
Is this Canada's starting left winger at the World Cup?
It's completely changed my opinion on things with him in this good a form. And again, you got still months of runway left, but I was pretty secure that I wanted Lorea at left back and Davies as left wing.
People are now saying play Davies at left back where he plays for Bayern and where Jesse Marsch has been inclined to play him too, Blake.
Yeah, so maybe we're back to Davies at left back and Ali Ahmed at left wing.
The idea was always you wanted Davies further up the pitch because he's got to be a part of your offensive attack and scoring goals and crosses and things like that.
But when the quality of player that you can play there is changed and you've got depth, then why not use Davies' speed in order to get back? I mean, can you imagine Moise Bombito and Davies both on the back line? Like, you're never getting behind both of them. Like, one of them's catching you.
It's a lot of speed.
So, I mean, I am so intrigued by Davies further up the pitch, but...
who isn't? And we've talked about this. This is a golden generation of Canadian men's soccer players, and it just gets deeper. The pool gets deeper and deeper and deeper, seemingly by the week.
And this is, by the way, Ali Ahmed's doing this with maybe their best quote-unquote scorer defecting and off the team
this
right
American
now.
forward,
Josh Sargent is
who's pushing for a transfer to MLS, and he's banished. Clubs are at logger. That is not a good.
He's not training with the big club right now.
No,
he's training with the kids, and TFC wants to. He'll be a DP with TFC. That quality of player is not playing with Norwich City, and they thought he would be. Like, they brought in.
Winning. And they beat Coventry, who leads the table. They beat Brighton, who's been a Premier League team. They beat Ryan Reynolds' Wrexham side, which is number 6 on that table.
And he scored 2 goals, which he doesn't really do. Like, we didn't see him
he can't
score.
Kick a ball.
But he has the 2 goals that he scored. He's stroked it pretty well.
From the Pool Gets Deeper file, this from MLS insider Tom Bogert, who reports FC Toulouse has submitted a bid of $2 million plus, that's US dollars, to the Columbus Crew for Canadian international Jason Russell Rowe. Russell Rowe's contract expires at the end of the year. He's 23. He wants to go to Europe. Of course, the Columbus Crew have been a very successful team in MLS, so he's played in a lot of big matches. He made his first senior international appearance for Canada versus Guatemala earlier this month, and he scored.
He's good. I actually think he might have more promise than the secondary guys like Theo Bair and stuff like that. I think Jason Russell-Rose got...
He's a midfielder?
No, he's a striker.
Okay. Toulouse is sitting 8th on the Ligue 1 table in France's top division. There you go.
Yeah, again.
Super Bowl 60 is the most unlikely matchup of all time based on preseason odds. The Seattle Seahawks 60-1, the New England Patriots 80-1 preseason. It is the second least likely matchup in major North American sports championship history after the 91 World Series between the Minnesota Twins, who were 80-1, and Atlanta, who was 200-1. Atlanta had been horrible, and then, of course, they built
that would start the reputation.
Extraordinary team with the 3 pitchers and the other Hall of Famers. New England versus Seattle Super Bowl matchup preseason would have gotten you 1,000-1. New England was 30-1 to win the AFC. Seattle was 28-1 to win the NFC. So there you have it.
Wow.
And this, from those on the ground there, the Patriots will be practicing at Stanford University in Palo Alto, California. The Seahawks will be practicing at San Jose State University. Neither team will be using the 49ers practice facility.
It's
near
too nice, I guess? Too much favoritism? Is that it?
That electrical substation is
do you think that's why?
Well, so there's a little bit... People don't know for sure. Super Bowl 50, Carolina, Denver, same thing. They used Stanford's facility. They used San Jose's facility.
Okay.
When the Super Bowl has been in different seasons, Miami, for example, there has been a team that has gotten use of the Dolphins' practice facility. So,
wow.
As the 49ers investigate whether an electrical substation is contributing to their injuries amongst the most injured teams in football year in, year out, the Super Bowl participants are saying thanks, but no thanks. We'll go to other areas and facilities in the Bay Area.
I think it's the fog.
I'm sure it's that too. The Buffalo Bills have found their new coach, and it's from within. They are promoting offensive coordinator Joe Brady to the big whistle after 4 years on staff with Sean McDermott. Since fired, he was the OC. He was the quarterback's coach, so you have to think this has Josh Allen's seal of approval. Phillip Rivers, the former NFL quarterback, high school coach, pulled out of contention for this job. Brian Daboll was also up for it, the ex-New York Giants coach, and he, now missing out on this gig, is headed to Tennessee to be the offensive coordinator for Robert Saleh. So you have the ex-Jets coach as the head coach. You have the ex-Giants coach as the offensive coordinator in Nashville, and that's the third fired head coach in this cycle to take a coordinator's job. Mike McDaniel went from the big whistle in Miami to offensive coordinator for Jim Harbaugh and the LA Chargers.
Do we usually have all this stuff sorted by Super Bowl?
Usually.
Really?
Jonathan Gannon went from Arizona head coach to the defensive coordinator's post with the Green Bay Packers. 7 vacancies down, 3 left, like Arizona, Cleveland, and Vegas. They may have been the least desirable jobs of the cycle.
Yeah, no kidding.
And they remain open. I'm quite interested to see what happens in Vegas, because you have to think that Tom Brady has invested himself a little bit more after another disastrous season for the Silver and Black. Their commitment to excellence is waning.
I wonder if a coach is a little, as opposed to the players, which probably are intrigued by playing in Vegas, especially in a, is a coach less excited about coaching in Vegas if he's got options? Because he knows the players have the potential to be distracted by Vegas?
So the one thing about Vegas for residents,
for normal residents,
and as you know,
yes.
I have a fair bit of family down there, is most live a fair distance from the Strip and don't really go to the Strip outside of shows.
Yeah, but those are people making $60,000, $80,000 a year.
Fair enough.
When you make $12 million a year, I'm pretty sure you're living in the penthouse of one of the casinos.
Well, but here's the other thing, Blake, as you well know, because we've had this experience together. You do 2-3 nights in a row in
Well,
Vegas.
you are done.
You are knackered.
Yeah.
Like that part gets old quick.
But
Right?
again,
Like,
that's
morning
us, man.
4, day 4 in Vegas, morning of. That's a rough morning.
But the multimillionaire 20-something
But
NFL
Blake,
star.
we just have to sit our ass on a plane. They have to get on a practice field in 90-degree
I
heat
understand.
and run
I understand.
and hit.
I'm just wondering, again, whether it's reality or merely perception. Perception is strong enough. I wonder if a coach is like,
So
I
let
got
me
the
ask
job in
you,
Arizona, I'm
this
going to go to
was- This
Arizona.
was a big thing we talked about when the NHL was going to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God, the distraction. It's going to be the Roxy flu on steroids. All those visiting teams are going to go out there and get their doors
I think
blown
early
up.
on it was.
And, if the Vegas Golden Knights, it could work against them too because of all the partying in Vegas. How are the Golden Knights doing?
Yeah, they're doing fine.
A very favorable stocking draft, but they've been nothing but a playoff team with one
I
exception.
do think there was a Roxy flu element in the first 2 years they were there. I think it's over now.
For the opponents,
For the
not
opponents.
the Knights.
For the
Yeah,
opponents,
obviously.
yeah.
And with the Olympics some 10 days away, time to highlight some of the Canadian medal hopefuls, and particularly amongst the British Columbia contingent of athletes. And we're going to start with Chilliwack's Rhys Howden. He is heading to his second Olympics as one of the most dominant athletes ever to race men's ski cross. This from our friend Ben Steiner, who does great work on the Olympics. He won his 4th race of the season this past weekend. He has reached the podium in 42% of his World Cup starts. He has 2 Crystal Globes awarded to the overall season winner. He won the Youth Olympics in 2016 in Lillehammer, was ninth in Beijing. Ninth in Beijing. I was going to say, it is 4 years ago. Was 2002? Yes. Because remember, the one Olympics Tokyo went a year later, and it was only 3 years between Olympiads. Anyways, 4 years ago in Beijing. And if he's not the gold medal favorite, surely a podium for Rhys Howden of Chilliwack. The Canadian overall contingent will be counting on him to bring home a medal, and he could be a big part of our gold rush in Milano.
Our skiers are kind of rounding into form,
Yeah,
too.
they are. I
Like,
watched
there's-
Kitzbühel this weekend. That was
we
not
got-
a repeat from Jack Crawford or Cam Alexander, but
There's a chance, though.
they're both contenders.
Yep.
Downhill and Super G, the speed races. We have typically done pretty well in the speed races.
But it's been even dark for
Over the
that,
years.
for especially on the men's side for recent years. But
By the way,
it's looking better.
have you seen what Lindsey Vonn is doing?
I know. She's doing well.
41 years old with knees that were destroyed and reconstructed off a long layoff. She's back and she's winning races on that tour.
Well, that's pretty crazy.
Results of the daily poll question from yesterday. We asked you, are you confident the Canucks have last place locked up? People said.
Yes.
Correct. Percentage?
65.
62. Pretty good, Blake. Mastodon, yes, they just don't have the talent to climb out of that hole. Saw some of that. It's a good shout. Patrick said, no, if the gap gets to 10-plus points, then I'll feel more comfortable. We discussed that on yesterday's show. Breezy says they'll go on a heater with 10 games left and end up with the 15th overall pick. I don't think there's a chance of 15th overall, Breezy. I know that's the joke, the late March heater. We've seen it before. It's more than a joke. But I'm not sure they're getting all the way to 15. Snarky Fan says yes to last place, but no way in hell they're winning the draft lottery, and they have never won the draft lottery. And Vet says, I'll believe it on game 82. Fair enough.
Yep. Well, I think for a lot of people, it'll be beyond that. It'll be, I'll believe it at the draft lottery, because I think I've seen that already. Yeah, they're going to finish last, but they're picking third. No one believes that the balls will fall right for them, even at 30 seconds.
Lengthy list of E's and O's from yesterday's program and beyond. We had trouble off the start of yesterday's show. We had a typo in a tweet, the word exercise. You wanted to note that Ben Kindle's father was not only a Whitecap, he was an 86er as well.
Started at 86er, went a couple other places, and then ended as a Whitecap. Yeah.
Yep. And lastly, and this one's on me. So Archer Shilovs did receive a beautiful ovation from the fans at Rogers Arena with a video tribute at the game on Sunday. Now, I may have missed this on television, a little distracted by that big football game. But a fan who was in attendance, a friend of ours, said to me, Blake, it was honestly better that he was on the bench because he was able to sort of stand up and acknowledge the proceedings as opposed to if he had been on the ice with the cage on and maybe, locked in laser focus and not been able to participate as much. So thank you for bringing that to my attention. I had said missed opportunity for, the fans to be able to celebrate him in the goal, but of course you can do it in a TV timeout on the bench with the camera. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Appreciate you spending some time connecting with the program. Please do subscribe to all our assorted channels, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts, costs you nothing. Follow on social, X, Insta, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, Blue Sky, live on many of those platforms, noon Pacific time weekdays. And of course, please do support the community sponsors you hear us talking about. Keep it local.